My name is Alana, and I have the honor and pleasure of introducing Micah Yager. And honestly, I'm just going to share 3 facts that I learned about Micah as I got to know him over the past week or so. The first one is that he loves his family. He's over there with his amazing wife, Amanda, and his kids, Reagan and Warren, and he loves the outdoors. So he's probably fishing, or he's camping, or he's doing something, but he loves his family, and he loves the outdoors. The second thing is he loves to game, and for all my fellow gamers, you're probably asking 2 questions. What is his game of choice, and what is the system? His favorite game is Call of Duty, and the correct choice of system is PlayStation, so sorry to all my Xbox fans. I'm also a PlayStation fan. The third thing is he has this way of connecting with people. And when I was talking with him, I was like, how did you get to this? Did somebody pull this out of you? Did you always know about this? And he told me, well, when I was young, my parents were the people who called this out of me. And he also has a dad who's a pastor. And so whenever he grew up, he just learned about how to look at everything as a mission field. He looks at people as stories. He looks at people as sons and daughters of God. He looks at them as image bearers. So whenever Micah enters into a room, that's what he sees. He sees image bearers. He sees stories that are waiting to be heard and seen and told. So it's not surprising to me that when Micah graduated Geneva back in 2012, he found a fellowship program as the Pittsburgh Fellows, who has the same mission to see everybody and to be where they are and be present. And he started at PGT Trucking as a fellow. And after he graduated from the Pittsburgh Fellows, he decided to stay. And through years of using his gift and being dedicated, he eventually ended as the government affairs manager. And he then went on to Koppers to do recruiting as a talent acquisition specialist. And he was doing all of the recruiting for the North American salaried positions. And then a few years later, he decided to start his own company called the Yager Professional Search, where he's now using the same gift of seeing people, hearing people, and now he's able to put them in places where they can flourish. So can you please help me introduce our featured speaker, Micah Yager.
Seriously considering having Alana follow me around and introduce me everywhere I go. That was incredible. I want to thank her so much for, she took it so seriously and she made me feel so valued as she found out and asked me questions about myself. And I want to thank Julie for inviting me. And I count it a serious honor and very humbled that I was asked to do this. So, good afternoon. Are we afternoon yet? Morning, good morning. I'm Micah Yager, and I am Pittsburgh Fellows Class 2013. And I'm the founder and CEO of Yager Professional Search. So, you heard her description of the progression of my career. Sounds way better than actually how it happened for me. As most of you who have careers know, those transitions and ups and downs, that they feel a lot different when they're happening than when they're condensed in a wonderful, and I'm very thankful for the introduction. So I've thought a lot about what makes you an influencer or an expert on something. And I was talking to a mentor of mine, and he said, well, I would say that you're probably an influencer or an expert, or maybe on your way to becoming an expert, think about what question do people ask you to answer the most? What's the question that people come to you and ask you the most? And I probably have 2 questions that I get the most in my role as a business owner of a recruiting company. And that is, should I take this job? And should I hire this person? I get asked those questions every day. So ultimately what it comes down to is I get asked a lot, should I take this risk? Should I leave the position I'm in and take this new one? Should I stay here? Should I take this risk? So today I would like to talk to you about what I'm calling redemptive risk. And I don't mean the financial investing term. I'm referring to the fact that everything in life is a risk. Being risk averse is a risk. If you aren't willing to jump off the diving board, you risk becoming stagnant, stifled, or even digressing. On the other hand, if you're jumping off of every diving board you can find, you risk becoming shallow, never truly getting the value out of any season of life, friendship, or business partnership. If you're always taking a jump off, you aren't really taking a risk. You might be running away. So now, I am now 10 years from when I began my Pittsburgh Fellowship. As I look around, depending on your stage in life, 10 years may sound like a very long time, or it may sound like a very short time. For me, it sounds like a long time, but it feels like a very short time. When I was in college, I had this dream. I wanted a career in public relations. I had a fantastic summer internship at UPMC in their media relations department. I was writing press releases, coordinating media events and conferences, interviews, and I said, this is what I want to do with my life. Fast forward about a year and a half, college graduation happens. I'm looking for an opportunity, and it turns out about 100,000 other students in the tri-state area are also looking for public relations jobs. But I end up with interviews, and some good interviews. End up with interviews with UPMC and some other large businesses in the area. And then at that time was my girlfriend, now my wife, had gone through a program called the Pittsburgh Fellows Program. And I got an interview with a woman named Becca Chapman. Well, after our conversation, and I would guarantee many of you have the same experience with Julie, you talk to her for about an hour, and then you're like, I'm going to put my entire career and life in your hands and do what you're telling me to do that I had no expectation of doing an hour ago. That's what I did. I said, you know what? All these interviews, everything else I have going on, you land me my dream PR job, okay? That's kind of what was in my head at that point. As I waited patiently for the fellows to deliver me my dream PR job, I graduated, got married, got an apartment in Ambridge, and Becca came through. I got my placement. I was going to be a driver recruiter for PGT Trucking. Now wait, that doesn't sound like the flashy PR job that I was looking for. Well, I spent 4 years at PGT, most of them in the driver recruiter department, very successfully recruiting drivers, to the point where I was promoted several times in the department and given additional responsibilities. But I was always trying to position myself. I was always trying to change that situation I was in to get that career towards public relations, never really being present in that role, always looking for the next thing. So even though I was seeing success where I was ambitious for a different career. I eventually got a crack at the position of manager of corporate communications and government affairs. I had the opportunity to travel to DC, to Harrisburg. I couldn't believe it. I was on my way to a career in public relations. But you know what? That position didn't work out. What I had thought was my direction, my purpose, did not work. God decisively closed that door. My position was eliminated. But what a blessing it is when God gives a clear answer, when he is clear with his direction. What a blessing. Almost immediately after that door was closed, a friend I had made, who had actually bought his house, coincidentally was also connected with the Pittsburgh Fellows Program. And he was manager of talent and development at Koppers. You may have heard of the company. And the second he heard I was available, he hired me. It was 2 days that I was without a job. But this time, I was hired as a recruiter again. But it was different. I was back on the career track. I had started it. But I committed. I went full send into recruiting. I accepted my charge to be a recruiter. I never tried to get out of it, control the situation, or ask for anything different. And for the first time in my professional career, I really blossomed. After a few years, an opportunity comes up with a woman who has a wonderful Christian woman who has a recruiting company, an opportunity to do a partnership with her. It gives me the opportunity to be remote for the first time in my career, which with kids in preschool and daycare was very, very enticing. But one major catch, I would have to leave a company that has been extremely loyal to me, and I have become loyal to them. They invested in me. They picked me up when I was unemployed. They believed in me. There was also the question of, is it smart to leave a multi-billion-dollar global publicly traded company to partner with a solopreneur who is riding all of the waves of running her own business? Well, I am a very risk-averse person. I'm a company guy. I'm loyal. Everything in my body was telling me to stay in my position. But my heart was saying, for one time, let's take this risk. Let's jump. So I did it. I left the best job I ever had at the biggest company I ever worked for to risk it for the biscuit. And within a month, my new opportunity and partnership had completely and utterly failed. Completely failed. My business partner became very ill. She ended up in the hospital. And through no fault of her own or mine, it just was not going to work out. There was nothing we could do about it. Now, unfortunately, I had already hired my replacement at Koppers and trained him very well, so there was no going back there. That is how Yarger Professional Search got started. That's the real story. Not as glamorous, is it? I founded my business in desperation. The only thing I had to start with was a heart that said, Jesus, I trust you. There was nothing else. There was no money. There was no infrastructure. There was nothing. My business partner, who was in the hospital, deathly ill, hands me one of her customers and says, I know what you're going through. Nothing either of us can do about this. Here, get started. And I was able to start work. Koppers called me back. The recruiter I hired was going on paternity leave, and they needed help recruiting. And it snowballed. And I kid you not, it felt like everybody in Pittsburgh called me to recruit for them that year. It was incredible. In haste, I'd set a revenue goal. I doubled it in 8 months. It was the most amazing thing I'd ever seen. All of that to bring you my big takeaway from the last 10 years. Everything is a risk. But when you trust and follow Jesus, he redeems those risks. There's a risk to sticking it out at a company. You may get let go. I'm proof that Jesus will redeem that. There's a risk to leaving a comfortable position to join a new venture. It might fail before it starts. I'm proof that Jesus will redeem that too. When I think about it, the only real risk in business is to do it without Jesus. And I hope that that is a risk you will never take. Follow the Lord. I'm excited to see your careers grow. I really am. You have such an incredible start as a Pittsburgh Fellow. Thank you all.